Welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today we have a large guest. This is Steve Knable. Went to high school together, and Steve's going to do a quick intro.
How's it going, guys? As Vin said, we went to high school together. We played baseball together. 25 years old, bodybuilder. I do online coaching. I do social media, and I also do investments.
There you go.
I'm still a wage slave.
Yeah.
Trying to get away from it.
I was going to say, not for long. So, kind of jumps right into what are the future plans? What's your big goal you're chasing right now?
There's a lot of them. First, I want to be like the best competitive bodybuilder I can be. But as you know, there's not too much money in competing in itself. So a lot of times you have to go different avenues, whether it be like social media or online coaching. And pretty much social media, it's a tool to help build online coaching. But I think just coaching and helping people and building my own business that way is what I want to shoot for.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and for those of you that do know, obviously I did my first show. Steve was my coach. And if you want to kind of just dive into that, how that works, how you got started.
With coaching, you're saying?
With bodybuilding coaching, the whole thing.
So getting into bodybuilding was actually a funny story. As you said, we played baseball together. So I went to this. Have you ever heard of Eric Cressy?
Sounds familiar.
He works with I think he's with the Yankees now, a trainer for them. I went with Justin Chin up to his camp, and he put us on this lifting program for specifically for baseball. So me and him would go to the gym 5 times a week, and one of my other friends, he would go to the gym with us, but he would do these bodybuilding style workouts. And
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So no, it wasn't.
It
wasn't him. I'll get into it with him later because he's
Yeah.
actually the one that pushed me to compete. But it was my friend Kyle, one of my close friends growing up. And I saw him damn, he's getting pretty big pretty fast. I'm maybe I should start working out with him. So I kind of ditched the baseball.
I was going to say, is this with baseball in mind, or is this its own thing?
So the specific training program with Cressy was specifically for baseball because I was playing in college at the time. But that's something about just seeing the progress he made. Obviously baseball, you get better, but you're not going to see the physical results from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was you know what, I'm going to join him this week and do his training, and then another week and another week, and I'm getting bigger, and it just became addictive.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that people need to stick through and push through. The first month or so you might not see the results, but after a couple months you start seeing the changes in the mirror. It just becomes addicting.
Absolutely.
You just want more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then so it's funny because I feel piggybacking that kind of comes in nutrition. How were you? Was it newbie gains? Were you already eating the right foods? How did you kind of fall into the whole diet and nutrition?
So in the beginning I kind of just ate whatever I wanted. I think what happened, a lot of it was genetics is a big part of it. Me and my friend Kyle both had really good genetics, so we kind of made really fast gains, and that's why it sort of became addicting. But I didn't really nail the nutrition aspect till I hooked up with Anthony as my coach in 2017. I was kind of just lifting and eating whatever I wanted. But I don't recommend that, but that's just kind of what I was doing.
No, absolutely. But clearly, obviously, you saw results from that, whether it be the newbie gains or just working hard, and your body probably wasn't used to it. And then if you kind of want to get into how it started kicking off with Ant.
So I saw I was getting bigger, and I started Instagram, bodybuilding started really popping off 2016-ish. And I was you know what, it looks pretty cool to compete. And I saw Ant was posting a lot. I'm that looks pretty cool. I'm gonna keep working for another year, and then I'll hit him up and see if he thinks I can do a show or not. So I texted him out of the blue. I'm hey, I send him physique pictures. I'm you think I could do a show? And he's yeah, let's get started. And just kind of from there, I was a little worried that I wasn't going to be able to nail the diet because I never did diet, but it turned out well. And things just kind of, as soon as I competed, I kind of got addicted and just took off from there.
Absolutely. Well, it comes to growth and bettering yourself, like you said earlier. Obviously in baseball you don't see it physically, though. I mean, you threw gas, so I'm sure you evolved in that way, but it's different when and the tough thing too is that people want to stay on the diet for a week and see a six-pack, and it's just not how it works.
I think the biggest thing for me was I I liked baseball, but I didn't love baseball.
Right.
So it was like, when I was like in the gym, it was like sort of like everything in my mind like, you know, went away, and I just had that one thing to focus on, and like I was really good at it, and it kind of just became like an obsession almost.
Right.
So
it's funny. So I just listened to a podcast today, Nick Bear's podcast with Steve Weatherford, and I don't know if you know Steve Weatherford.
yeah, the Giants punter.
Savage.
Yeah.
So he was talking about it. He's like, yeah, that's basically what happens in the gym with him. And I feel like a lot of people, obviously, I'm in a similar boat, and it's just everything else, your problems, like nothing matters.
It's
like,
like
this is
people
it.
always ask like, how do you stay motivated? It's like, it's not motivation, it's discipline, but it's like, for me, it's like obsession. Like if I don't do this, like I'm like up for the day. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what made me think of it, but it's like a dripping faucet analogy, where it's like you can't make that crazy change overnight. Like I kind of got into this in the last episode, but if you just keep chipping away, and there's another analogy Eric Thomas uses, where it's like swinging an axe 1,000 times at a tree. If you keep hitting different spots, you're not going to make any progress. But if you hit that same spot 1,000 times, you're going to knock the tree down.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of just hammering it and consistency.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so from there you kind of, so that was 2017 you said.
2017, I did my first show. I did a natural show, and I ended up winning that show. And like from there, that's like, I'm like, the prep was horrible. Like your first prep, you know, it sucks. And I was lean for a long time. So I was like in that state where I was kind of like ready 6 weeks out, and I just kind of had to like sit and wait for show day. And tough. I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Right.
That. And then show day came, and I'm like, you know what? Like, that was pretty fun. Like, let's go. Like, I'm ready for the off season. Like, how can I get better?
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, like it really does. It's a tough thing to get through, and you kind of said, and I guess one thing I also want to bring up. So this was obviously my first prep as well, and into prep, I mean, I myself, obviously.
Yeah.
If you want to kind of go into that, and because I've told a couple people, like, so I was basically intermittent fasting and eating all of my meals way too quick. And if you want to kind of go into what was actually happening with my body, because that one night that I got McDonald's, like
your blood glucose was probably like in the toilet.
Yeah. So
that's probably why you felt bad. I think that on my end, there was also some communication probably we could have had a little bit better.
Well, I should have said that I was intermittent fasting.
Yeah, true. But it was like, I think that I probably dropped your fats a little bit too low instead of pulling from carbs, because like when we were talking about, I'm like, I kind of wanted to keep you a little bit fuller on stage going into it, and like keep carbs as high as possible. But like when you pull the fats, right, like your hormones and all that gets like messed up.
Yeah.
So I think like I might have pulled the fats a little too, because when we added them back in, then we like started seeing more progress.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so true. And it's so weird, like the little things that you don't know until you do this.
Yeah.
And then it's just the consistency where like some people will be like, oh, I'm eating clean, but it's, you know, they're eating clean to their standard, and then there's so many variables. Yeah. But when you're eating the same foods, it's kind of when you see the real results.
For sure. I obviously, you know, the intermittent fasting, not eating for a long period of time, that's
not good.
Especially when you're, you know, hungry.
Right.
It's probably not the best thing.
Yeah.
But.
And then another thing too, so like I kind of gave you a really tough task, because like, I mean, in 2020 I went like nuts with endurance stuff. Like I did a half Ironman, ran a marathon, and then like it's like, oh, didn't really bulk, and I was like, oh, let me do a bodybuilding show. So like you said, like you're trying to keep my carb size so I can keep as much size as possible while still getting smaller as far as like shredded. And it's just, it was, you know, it's a tough task, but I think you did a great job. I had a good time, and my little sister kind of got a nutrition coach later on, and it was, you know, a friend of hers referred her, and she was saying like she thinks in the future she wants to do a show, and like it's because she saw like my prep, and she saw like what goes into it, and it's like it's just cool. It really is. It's like a new dynamic and like way to learn yourself, and it's like you said, it's from the consistency, and it's hard work, and it's discipline.
You think you'll compete again?
I think I will. I think I need to do like a year bulk, 2-year bulk. Like
I mean, you came in good shape. I think it was just, you know, the guys doing it were older and been doing it a little bit longer. So it just takes time. That's with everything. No, absolutely. And again, it's not. This kind of leads us right into our next topic. It's not an excuse by any means, but a lot of the guys backstage were talking about like the cycles they're running. Absolutely.
And I'm sitting here like, I take creatine, like. But if you want to kind of hop into that and your roadmap with that and kind of your process.
So essentially, I guess every gym bro comes to a time, or at least considers, the use of anabolics, right? So sort of in like the MPC, IFBB, it's commonplace.
Right.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a taboo subject. Like, I'm sure the general viewer, will see someone like Phil Heath and like question if they're natural or
right.
not. It's not really like talked about. And there's kind of like a media stigma around it that like demonizes it, which in a way it should be, but
right.
it's not like...
Matters how you're doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's bad for you. Don't get me wrong. It's going to take years off your life, but there are safe ways to do it. You just need the right, protocol, smart coach, lead you down the right path. But essentially, there is natural bodybuilding organizations that like my first 2 shows I did naturally. I only did 1 show enhanced, my last show, and obviously, it makes a big difference. But it's just a decision that you personally have to make. Like, are you willing to put everything into this sport? Like, if you just want to run a cycle to like look good on the beach, like, I think that's just
kind of crazy.
It's stupid. Unless your goal is to be like a professional bodybuilder, there's no reason to touch the stuff.
Right. So I mean, and you kind of touched on it, and obviously, like, I think you're very mature and grown about it, and how you handle it and how you speak about it. But it's funny because, and I did it forever, and there's a lot of people that do it, where it's every weekend you're binge drinking, and like that's not helping your life. Like, and people obviously get into other forms of fun.
There's the thing that messes you up is when you're on that and then you're doing those other stuff on top of it.
Right.
Because a lot of bodybuilders will drink on top. Obviously it's not good for the physique, but they'll still do it. They'll drink in the off season while running, oral cycles. Terrible for the liver.
Yeah.
They'll do recreational drugs, cocaine, obviously not good for the heart.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, like, you have an end goal in mind. You have something you're chasing, and obviously it's not to kind of compare, but there's a lot of people ruining their livers on the weekends or eating shitty foods that are also taking years off their life.
Absolutely.
At least not at least, but you have a goal in mind. So it's a sacrifice. Everything's a sacrifice. I mean, even me running a marathon, and then I want to get into ultra running, like, that's going to take a big toll on my body and my joints. Like,
look at NFL players with concussions.
Exactly.
It's sort of all the same.
Yeah.
In high level, sports, there's always a risk taking. Right. And those guys are on stuff.
Absolutely.
Too. So it's like...
I know, absolutely. Where are you at show-wise? So when was your last show?
My last show was 2021 spring.
Okay. So now, what your next goal is going to be...
So I'm moving away from the classic physique division. I'm going into just open bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm. Do you kind of want to, just for the viewers, like, I know I kind of learned it on the whim, like, kind of on my own and with your help, but if you want to kind of break down the classes and how that works.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just do men, or you want me to do all of them?
Oh, you can do men.
Okay. So there's men's physique, which is like you wear the board shorts. Mm-hmm. It's more of like, it's supposed to be a beach body look, but like it's gotten away from that now to where like the guys are pretty big. They don't judge legs. It's just like upper body. They look for like a V taper, like small waist, good abs, like good looking, all that stuff.
Right.
And then there's like classic physique, which is supposed to be like the golden era, like the Arnold look. And that's like getting away from that. Like the guys are super conditioned, super big. Obviously they grade legs, but it's not like super huge mass monster.
Right.
Like the open is just like you want to look like a freak. Like that's pretty much, obviously like shape, having a small waist, good V taper matters, but usually the biggest, most conditioned guy is going to win the show.
Right. And that's what you're shooting to get into.
That's what I'm shooting to get into. I want to, if I do eventually, get into the pro ranks, I think I'll probably switch back down to classic.
Because I feel like, and again, obviously you know better than me, but you have that taper well.
Yeah, it's just like making the weight for that as an amateur, like I'm not going to be able to do that without sacrificing muscle.
Right. And what are your current like dimensions? How tall are you?
I'm 6'1".
Okay.
And I'm like 6'1", 250 right now. 250.
And what are you planning on getting up to?
I'll probably, before my next show, I'll have to get to at least like 275, because to be like competitive, even in the amateur ranks, as in open bodybuilding, I probably need to be at least like 230 on stage. So
jeez. So how do you? So obviously, and then you're to get on stage, you said 2:30. So how do you feel at 2:30? Now, obviously, you're going through a prep, so you're struggling mentally. But body-wise, how do you feel like your joints? How do you feel at 2:30 compared to when you got to get up to 270? Like, that's a tall order.
I think it's more like breathing, like heavy, because your body doesn't know, essentially, like, whether it's muscle or fat. Like, it just knows, the heart just knows it has to pump more blood. It's working more. So I think, like, just being kind of lethargic and, like, just monitoring, like, you know, health stuff, like blood pressure, and that is important, especially if you're trying to get, like, really big. But 2:30, obviously, in show shape, you'd feel pretty bad. I'd say probably, like, 2:40, 2:45 would where I'd be, like, feel healthy.
Right.
You know?
And I know you're doing on, I think it's Instagram or TikTok, you're posting a picture, it's like once a week, right? Of, like, you're trying to still keep abs.
I've been trying to hold I haven't been good with doing it because I haven't been going to the gym that I was taking the same picture at. But I was doing it for, like, a couple weeks, just, like, saying, here's my weekly update each week. Just
and you're still holding abs at, like...
I'm, like, 250. They're starting to fade away a little bit.
Still crazy. And that kind of goes down to, like, so, like, what are you eating on a bulk? Or, like, what do you eat
I'm not
today?
technically, like, bulking right now. I'm in, like... I don't want to, like, get into, like, I don't want to put, like, personal, like, dosages.
I got you. Yeah.
So I'm just, like, in a holding phase right now. I guess I could say that. I'm just on, like, a TRT phase right now where I'm, like, cleaning out my system, you know, got my blood work, waiting for the blood work results to come back, and then, like, me and my coach are going to make a call. So I'm only eating, like, 3,000 calories right now. So I'm just kind of, like, I'm actually losing a little bit.
I was going to say, what does that do for your body? Yeah.
So because I was doing that prep, and then, like I said, I realized that it was probably a better idea to, like, keep growing.
Right.
So I got down to, like, 235.
Okay.
And obviously I was doing high cardio. So, like, my body kind of, once I added more food, like, jumped up to, like, 245 real quick. And then I was, like, slowly climbing towards, like, 250. And then, like, it kind of stabilized around, like, 250. And now it's, like, slowly climbing back down.
Okay.
So... I think this is the last week that I'll be in that holding phase. Then we'll probably push a little bit more.
Push a little more food, kind of grow a little more. Okay. And then, so obviously on the topic of, like, prep and nutrition, what kind of gets you through, like, because obviously a lot of people by now know the last, like, 5 weeks kind of suck. Like, 5 to peak week kind of is a rough go.
I think it's just, like, knowing the end goal. Like, you went through all this and you're just going to give up now.
Right.
Like, that's just stupid in my opinion.
So, like, it's your why. Like, you kind of, it keeps you going. Like,
you did all this already. Might as well finish the job.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And then so obviously post-show, everybody posts their cookies and their pancakes and their cakes. And what's your take on, like, cheat meals? And then obviously you could get into it with your clients as well. But, like, cheat meals and then that after show, like, binge.
So I think cheat meals depends on who the client is. Like, if it's a lifestyle client, you don't want them to be, like, as strict as someone, like, you know, on a prep or something. So, you know, a lot of people just like macros, giving it to them. Like, I prefer giving them meal by meal. That way it's, like, easier. But some people, like, they just want to have macros and they just want to look good. And, you know, I'll help them with that and give them the macros. You check in each week. But as far as post-show binge, what I like to say is, like, have the meal after the show, enjoy, like, the next day, and then have, like, one meal, what would it be? Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Have, like, one meal and then, like, try and get back into a reverse diet.
Right.
Because you don't want to, like, binge and then all of a sudden you're up, like, 35 pounds and you're like, well, where the fuck do I go from here?
It's easy. I mean, so after my show, I actually did really well reverse dieting back.
Yeah.
And then I went to Boston, and I fell off the wagon.
Yeah, I remember because you were back down to your show weight, like, the Thursday after, which was, like, a good job doing that. So. And then
we kind of stopped because I was like, I need to reset food-wise for myself. Because, again, like, you know, I don't plan on bodybuilding forever or for, like, a career. So for me, it was, like, something I wanted to try, definitely something I would do again. But I had the marathon in mind.
Yeah. So
I knew I needed to eat more food, and then just to kind of get away from, like, the counting and the macros, because, again, I'm one of these people that just, I go nuts with it. Like, I'm all or nothing on
You try to be like well-rounded.
Yeah, I try. Yeah.
So like more like marathon and running stuff.
Right.
So I totally understand that. I actually think that the reverse diet is harder in itself than the actual prep because there's no like goal.
Yeah,
like,
you're not stepping on
like,
stage.
Yeah, it's like if I eat this, so what? Like I can look a certain way. I don't have to look a certain way that day. So it's like that takes more discipline, I think, than actually prepping.
It's so true. And then if you kind of want to go into like just your coaching as a whole, your goals with coaching and kind of like the next step with that.
I just want to expand. I want to expand. I want to coach, an array of people. As much as I do like enjoy coaching competitors, I also enjoy just coaching, there's a goal for everyone and it's like equally as fulfilling helping each person, whether they get their pro card or whether it's someone that lost 100 pounds. Like it's equally fulfilling for me. Everyone has different goals. Everyone has different, stuff they want to accomplish and it's just, my job to help them get there.
Right, you're kind of like an advocate and getting that like task accomplished.
Obviously, like prep clients require, more attention. Like you and I, we were like checking in every day basically. Yeah. So I kind of want to keep that to like a limited number, maybe like 10, no more than 10 at a time, and then just have the rest lifestyle. I do want to have like eventually, down the road, like a pro bodybuilders under my belt. But for right now, I think it's just, I want to focus more on marketing, which if I do want to go full time, I think I have to do a little bit better because right now I'm not marketing because I'm kind of like almost full pretty much, so I don't want to like market and then have like a bunch of requests I can't handle. Right. Because like I want to take more, you know what I mean?
Right, no, absolutely.
And you have to like sort of limit yourself to like, you got to give everyone the equal attention and like, I don't want to have people just be like a number in my phone. I want it to be like more personal. So I guess just expanding and like being able to do it full time and like focus my full attention on it rather than, having to go to work 9 to 5 and then
absolutely
doing that.
So you definitely wanted to take over as your career.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think like you kind of really hit on the head because of course there's all these coaches that could kind of like, oh sure, come work with me, and they don't give you any time of day, and you're saying like you're kind of keeping it limited just because you actually want to give people the attention that they deserve.
It builds a rapport.
Right.
If someone says, hey, this guy's doing a really great job with me, it's a lot of business is just like word of mouth.
Right.
Like that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Just like like I know that there's coaches, like I'll see like my friends will tell me they'll like go into their DMs and be like, hey, like, do you want me to coach you? Like I think if you're doing that at that point, like it's like not a good look, kind of.
No, I know what you mean.
Like, you want to build it to the point where you have all these people coming to you without you lifting a finger.
Right. And how do you think someone kind of like gets started with that? Like, how did you do it? Did you take on friends at first, like free of charge?
Yeah.
Like
I coached for free for about a year, maybe a little less than a year, and then I started charging $75, which was like as early as last year. I was doing $75 up until like about November, and then once like January hit, then I started upping my prices and taking it, as a full-time job, even though I'm not doing it full-time. So I think just building your experience and having the confidence knowing that whatever this person, asks, you can troubleshoot it and give them the right answer.
Right.
Until you're 100% confident doing that, I think you shouldn't be charging people, in my opinion. But that's sort of how I went about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the most like organic way to do it.
What really helped was if you're watching this, Fit Blake, like he was really popping off on like TikTok at the time, and I actually reached out to him, and I reached out to him then because he was saying his coach was having. I know I just said don't reach out to people.
No, but
I reached out to him, and he was saying whoever he was working with like wasn't giving him the time of day. I was like, hey, why don't you let me finish your prep? And then he ended up winning his class and his show, and everyone saw that, and then all of a sudden I had hundreds of DMs.
And you did that in like, I think, because you only had him like 7 weeks, something like that?
Yeah, it was like 7 weeks.
And then again, like obviously you have to learn the person's body, so you had a short time and you still want to show. Like obviously that shows that you're good at what you do, you know what I mean? But that's awesome, and it's funny That's another thing we kind of get into is like just social media as a whole and like the power of it. Like you have someone that I mean, how many followers did he have at the time? Do you even know?
I think he had over 100,000.
So a good following, and like just from him posting, and then obviously, tagging you in there and just shouting you out as the coach, like your DMs get flooded. Like it really is the power of the influence in a way.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
And then obviously you've quite the influence of yourself on TikTok.
Just trying to build it up.
Yeah,
So.
Nah, that's awesome. Going back to like your clients, like how you touched on it already. Like, so is it really you work macros or do you work client by client basis?
Before we get started, I make the recommendation of whether I always recommend that you should do meal by meal because obviously that's the best. But if there's someone that's not going to be able to follow that plan, because that's hard. I'll say it is, eating the same crap over and over every day. So if you want to do macros, I'll give you your macros, give you a grocery list of foods to choose from, and then you kind of fit that how you like.
Right.
Because as long as you're meeting those macros, you're going to hit your goal. It might not be the most efficient way.
Right.
But if you're just like a lifestyle client, like I'm perfectly fine with that.
Right.
As long as I know, like, obviously if you want to be like a top bodybuilder, like you can't really have balance. But if you just want to look good, it's okay to have balance, and if it fits your macros, might be a better solution for you, then I'm all for it.
Right. Then so just the more we're talking about it, I'm kind of thinking of like, have you ever had these clients that come to you either on a prep or just lifestyle where it's like, and we've spoken about this like a while back, where it's just like, I just ate a whole pizza, or like I just ate a whole jar of like peanut butter, like what do I do? And like, what's your reaction to that? Like, I know obviously the reaction.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny because like a lot of people do wonder that. They're like, what can I do? I just like,
there's nothing you can do.
Exactly.
It's just
falling back into the plan.
Yeah, just go back to the plan. Like I'm not gonna like punish you with cardio.
Right. Yeah.
It's just back to it tomorrow. Like you messed up, own it. If we have to push the show back, we push it back. But I'm not gonna go make you do 2 hours of cardio to burn it off. That's just counterproductive.
But I feel like that's the answer.
That's what most people will do.
Right.
But it's not the right answer.
So, and that's why I think like the guidance of a coach is actually so crucial, because like I would do that kind of stuff with myself, where it's like make some homemade Rice Krispies. Like I used to space out. I was like way too lean to be like just walking around as an average human being. In like 2020, I was doing endurance stuff. There was nothing else to do, so I was like, why not? And then every 2 to 3 weeks, I would just make these like insane cheat meals.
Yeah.
And just eat the whole thing. And then I'd probably go like run 3 miles after, almost like throw up, because it was like just too much food. But it's funny because like someone like you giving me that guidance, like I would have realized like, no, just fall back into the same eating plan.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe not the one I was doing because I was on like a crash diet, but like just fall into a normal eating routine and it'll kind of just fade away.
Yeah. I think everyone needs a coach, essentially.
Yeah.
If you look at like the top athletes, like I'm your coach, right? Mm-hmm. I have a coach.
Right.
My coach has a coach.
Right.
His coach has a coach.
Right.
Phil Heath has a coach. Ronnie Coleman had a coach.
Yeah.
It's just to, even if you're like an expert or the best bodybuilder in the world, it's always good to have that second set of eyes, and it kind of just eliminates the need for you to do anything, and you kind of just sit and fall and follow this plan.
Right.
And that's all you need to worry about.
Yeah. No, it's true, and it kind of goes back to like you said, like even if you think you know everything, one, you probably don't, and then I feel like that's also people's downfall, where it's like you can always learn. Like I learned a ton that I would have just never knew, and I do think what you said actually really holds weight, where like everybody needs a coach to an extent. I think, obviously matters your goals.
Yeah.
But like just to learn macros and learn nutrition, because a lot of people don't know what they're putting in their body. 100%. And there's a real like rabbit hole you could get down with like seed oils and all the different stuff. But even if you're just eating for the most part like healthy whole foods, like it makes the world a difference.
100%.
In like
that's
everything.
Like the biggest thing I notice when someone comes to me is they can have their training down to a T. Mm-hmm. If they don't have their nutrition right, like once you fix that, then you like notice like exponential results.
Right. And like you said,
even if it's just like adding in clean whole foods, like not even like if you're not even tracking,
right,
which obviously I always recommend it. Even if like you don't want to hire a coach and you just want to like feel better,
yeah.
just add whole foods.
Yeah, it makes the world a difference. And then like even what I'm doing now, I'm like intuitively eating. I kind of know just from tracking where I fall around, but it just fills you up like crazy. Like compared to just eating like things out of containers and packages, it's just, it really does make the world a difference. Next, I kind of wanted to ask, so like obviously people fall off the deep end with like those big binge meals. How do you feel like 0 to 100 success rate? Do you find that more clients than not are following the plan to a T? Do you feel like it's like 80%? Like when you get someone, or if you want to look at like your whole plethora of people, do you think like majority of the time most people follow the plan that are given?
Yeah, and that's kind of where you have to do like client selection. If you see, that's like generally would never take someone like under 18 because what are the chances that, you know, a 16-year-old kid's gonna follow a meal plan? Like it's not very high. And there was actually this one kid that's like 15 years old, and he's like, come on, give me a chance. I'm like, all right, like you get your parents' permission, like I'll let you, you know, work with me. And he was like one of my most disciplined clients.
I remember you telling me.
Yeah, it's just like all about the person.
Yeah,
you know?
No, it's true. And then even that kid you were saying, like, he's a pretty big kid.
Yeah.
And he's growing. Yeah, it's, some people just have that though, where it's like that disciplined mindset where it doesn't matter. Like 100%. It's a non-negotiable. Yeah, really is what it comes down to. And yeah, this kind of goes into, so we talked about how people will binge eat and then basically overtrain. So do you kind of want to go into overtraining like as a whole, like as far as lifting or punishing themselves with cardio? Like what are your thoughts on overtraining? And is it something that people actually do, or is it, because I feel like people also use that as an excuse not to train, where it's like, oh, I don't want to overtrain.
Yeah. I think people do a lot of like junk volume. So what matters most when you're lifting, obviously there's this whole optimal, non-optimal thing that's like popular now on social media, right? Obviously there's some movements that are, you know, more biomechanically, you know, correct to do for to bias a certain body part. But if you're not training with intensity, you're not going to grow. Like your body doesn't want to put on muscle. It wants to stay the same. So you want to like, your body needs to be under a certain amount of stress to grow. So whether you do a barbell row or let's say, right, like you want to target your lats. A one-arm cable row is going to, you know, bias your lats a little bit better than a barbell row. Well, let's say someone's lollygagging the barbell row, or the cable row, not training anywhere close to failure, and someone's, you know, rowing 315, you know, to complete failure. That person, even though, you know, they might not be targeting their lats as, you know, good as someone who's doing the one-arm cable row, they're likely going to have bigger lats just because of their training intensity. But now, if you're able to bring that intensity to, you know, the correct bias movements, that's where you really see the growth.
Right.
And I think learning to train hard takes time. I think even myself, I didn't fully, like, maximize my training till, like, this year. So, it takes a while, and I think until you train someone that actually, like, train with someone that actually trains balls to the wall, like, you're not going to, like, you have to, like, see it, in a sense.
It's really is, like, one of those things to, like, you have to slow down to build.
Yeah.
And, like, it's something we trained together a couple times, and, like, seeing you train, and then even, like, I'll see other, you know, bodybuilders or people in the gym, and it's, like, it reminds me to slow down, and it's one of those things. It's true. I feel like and obviously you play baseball, we play baseball, like, you train like an athlete. Like, that's kind of what you know is, like, explosive. But it's, like, if you have to, like, feel it, and it really, like, time under tension, that stuff 100%. Really matters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, I think that's a big downfall of myself.
It's intensity, too. That's just... Yeah. If you train intense, regardless of what you do, like I said, obviously some movements are better than others. Like, you need to learn to do that first. And it's a skill, honestly. Yeah. Like, it takes time to develop. And once you can really nail that down of, like, it's like you kind of got to go to, like, this, like, different, like, people think they train hard, but, like, you kind of got to be, like, a little messed up in the head and, like, get to, like, certain points to where you're really, like, pushing your body to, like, if you're, like, doing this last rep, like, you're gonna, like, pass out
or like throw up. No, I know what you mean. It's definitely I mean, I see your videos and people kind of, you know, it's tough to do. Like, who wants to do that to themselves? And it's, you know, and then on the flip side, where, like, I'll do that stuff with, like, endurance stuff too, where it's like I'll push myself to, like, absolute exhaustion. Yeah. And you don't need to do too much of it. People think more is better, but sometimes less is more
but doing that less harder than more.
Right. No, absolutely. Sense, yeah. Well, like you said, intensity. It really is. It matters. How you're doing it matters more than just doing it.
Yeah. And like Arnold said, I bet, like he made that quote, I bet you I get more out of this one sit I do than you get out of a whole entire workout. And it's true.
Yeah. And you kind of touched on it earlier too, where like something I saw myself doing earlier on, which I kind of scaled back a little bit, I still struggle with it, is like too many exercises, thinking like I need to do this to like overstimulate or hypertrophy. Like people kind of just throw all these terms around and you kind of just like latch onto them because you don't really have direction. So it's, you like you said, you kind of keep it simple and you just work hard.
Yeah, right now I do 2 tricep exercises a week.
Yeah.
Like that's it. I do literally two exercises, and it's more than enough.
Do you hit arms?
So right now I have like an upper day, which has 2 bicep exercises, and then I have a pull day, which also has 2 bicep exercises. So I have 4 bicep and then 2 tricep with my push day.
Like that's crazy. Yeah. And you have like gigantic arms, so like people will, that's something that people love hitting. Like and I'm a big advocate for like not ignoring legs, but I like to run. So like if my legs are like crazy sore, it's obviously not optimal for running.
Biceps are actually a muscle where I feel you can hit a little bit more frequently. So they like recover a little bit faster.
Okay.
It's like at the same time, like they're not, like if they're a strong point, like you don't need to hit them too much, but like if they are a weak point, you can kind of hit them a lot more so than like back or legs or something like that.
Right.
Like you can't train legs 3 times a week.
Yeah. It's no good.
You can train arms 3 times a week.
Right. It's true. And then that kind of goes right into, like, obviously, being a bodybuilder, like you're just a bigger human being walking around, and then you kind of push yourself into this uncomfortable, like you post those pictures on social media, like you in like a button down, like it just doesn't look normal. Like it's, I mean, it's cool. I think it's awesome. Obviously, you have other people on the other side of that are like, oh, it's too much or whatever. Like, how do you kind of like face that adversity? And it's like, obviously, you're goal oriented. You have the goal in mind, so like nothing's gonna stop you. Nor do you give a like what people think. But like, how did you get to that point? Because of course, there's kickback in the beginning where it's like.
So when I was younger, I kind of used to worry about like pleasing everyone. Like, I hope everyone likes me. But now it's like, if you're gonna like me, you're gonna like me.
Right.
If you don't like me, you don't like me. That's
right.
It's not in my control, and it kind of helps like weed out,
the real from the fake too. Yeah,
exactly.
It's true. So. And then, so kind of on the same topic with that, like, how did that get started? Like, obviously now you have the following on social media, but like, I'm sure when you first started posting, there was a lot of like, you getting thrown in.
I really didn't get bad feedback. Like my friends would like make fun of me, but like I knew they had like a good intention to just be like a joke, which I didn't like take seriously. But it's like, I feel like there could have been people talking behind my back.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't know about. I'm sure there was, but it's kind of like if people see that you're like so determined towards something,
dedicated, yeah,
it's either they're gonna hate it because they can't do it themselves, or they're gonna gravitate towards it. And the people that gravitate towards it are the ones you kind of want to be around. Yeah,
no, it's true. And you could kind of tell the people that have like that drive, where it's like it's like an obsession. It really is. That's what it is, and it's an obsession. And it's if it's making you better and productive, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will kind of use that as the out to not do it, like you said, because it's work. It's hard work, and people don't want to eat the healthy food and lift the heavy weight. Honestly.
Yeah.
Not that I'm lifting the heavy weight, but I'm running some miles. But this kind of gets into, so, a lot of people will talk about, and I kind of did it forever with food, with like moderation and balance. And like people kind of think you need that in all areas of your life. And you kind of touched on it before, like there is no balance. Like when you want to be a pro bodybuilder, like you sacrifice balance.
If you want to be the best at something, whether it's anything in life, you have to make a ton of sacrifices, and you have to be okay with just, nobody who was ever super successful at something didn't put their all into it.
Right.
Like look at like Jeff Bezos. Like, you don't think he put his life into building Amazon? You don't think, Ronnie Coleman put his life? You think he was like going out partying on the weekends?
It's true.
It wasn't. And if it's okay to, not everyone wants to live that way, and I understand it, but that's kind of what separates successful from, just being I guess
just
the average.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, you kind of need that like
And
sick
it is. It's
obsession.
like, so I was thinking about this the other day. It's like I have this mindset where it's like almost that I feel like people that live like that average life tend to be a little more happier even if they have less, because for me it's like I remember thinking about this. It was last year. I went on vacation and I saw a Mustang GT in the parking lot. I was like, wow, what the hell's that guy doing to, get
Right.
that I'm not. I'm like, you know what, if I work hard I'll be able to get that.
Here we are.
I got it.
Right.
The other day I was on the highway, Lamborghini flew past me.
Right.
Like, what is that guy doing that I don't, what's he doing that
Right.
I'm not doing that he has that? Now I want that.
Right.
And it's like, when I have the Lamborghini, what do I want next? It's like you're never fully happy.
Right.
And I think that's where it's important to like take a step back and like realize how far you've come, because that guy that flew past me in the Lamborghini, you don't know what's going on in his life.
Right.
He could be 5 payments behind on it, and his wife is sick.
Right.
Like, that's why it's like you always see, like, you always want more, and I feel like you're the same way. Like, you always want more, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's just like important to live a happy life, essentially. And like, what's the definition of happiness? If someone's happy with less, or someone's not as happy with more, who's winning?
Right.
So I think that's where like a lot of times I realize it's like, okay, yeah, I want this, and like a lot of times I'm hard on myself, like, why don't I have this and that person has that? But like, you have to take a step back and like be grateful for everything that you do have. And I tend to do that a lot, and I kind of like, it's like peace a little bit, but that's something that I personally struggle with. Like, nothing I feel like
Is enough.
And that's what leads you to be successful, but it also leads you to be a little unhappy at times.
Absolutely. So I think, and I kind of do this in myself, and I kind of have put things in place that really check me on this, and it's that, like, you're humble and confident and proud, but just always hungry. And but like you said, that's also that driving force that, like, it's easy to point at someone, and obviously you want to get out of a 9 to 5. I work a sales job, so it's kind of like a little different than a normal 9 to 5, and it's that not, I don't want to say average, but it's the norm. You know what I mean? Like, most people aren't doing bodybuilding shows and running marathons. Like, it's just not the norm.
Yeah.
But of course, like, you also have, I think it's something special inside you that's driving you to do these things, because think about it, like, a lot of people just won't even do it. People won't even do the diet aspect or just the working out aspect as a whole. You're encompassing all of it and chasing. It's not like, oh, I just want to do shows. Like, you want to be a pro bodybuilder. Like, that's a big goal.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, I know what you mean as far as they could be happier because they could be more content, but that's not the way I want to live anyway. And I don't think it's the way you want to live.
Exactly.
And I think that's where a lot of people can kind of ease in and be like, oh, again, it's kind of like their escape, where it's like, oh, that's, I'm happy. But are they? That's the thing too. You know what I mean? And of course, like, the material things will always come and go. And I think it's important too. And like, I'm very close to my family, and obviously I don't know your full family dynamic, but like, I know that you have like you've mentioned him before, like Justin Chin, like the fact that like someone like that's still in your life, like you guys are boys, like you have people to check you where it's like, wow, look, like I'm becoming a pro bodybuilder, I'm chasing my goals, and like I still have like high school friends around, like just good dudes. Like it's you have those things that also ground you and keep you. And I think that's the important part when you could get caught up in like the I want more and what's next. And it's really just every once in a while, you don't want to sit and dwell too long, but like, you finished a show not too long ago. Like you look back and it's like, you look at those pictures and like, be proud. Like, you know what I mean? Like own that, and then keep pushing. There's nothing wrong with that.
For sure.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's just like a lot of people I feel like get caught up in that same mindset of like, it's not like necessarily like comparing to others.
Right.
I guess it is like you're like seeing
sense.
someone has more than you,
Right.
But like I said, you don't know their situation,
Right.
essentially, and it's important to just like take a step back and realize like you're running your own race, and when I don't even like your car's ready to start, it'll start.
Right.
Just because that guy's car started a little bit earlier than yours, you can't compare. People are on different parts of their journey. So
absolutely. And I've said it to a couple people, and like I'm sure people don't believe me, and it's, you know, sometimes it's tough to fully believe yourself. Like, if you really think about it, you could sit here all day and be like, oh, I want to trade lives with X, Y, and Z. I mean, Jeff Bezos got pretty jacky. I want to trade lives with Jeff Bezos these days. But like, if you really thought about it, like, you don't have Justin Chin, you don't have your clients, you don't have, you know what I mean? Like, you don't, even on my end, like, I wouldn't have my family. Therefore, I could never trade my life with anybody, because like, those are my people. Like, I don't care if I have all the money in the world and all the quote unquote success and happiness and whatever, but you won't have what keeps you you. So that's kind of what, because it's very easy, especially with social media, to get caught up in like the comparing, but that's what keeps me grounded, where it's like, of course I could trade for that, but then you lose everything. Like,
exactly.
And for me, a big like reason of why I'm doing this and why I'm pushing for more is because I know the people around me that I'm influencing, and I feel like you're in a similar boat where it's like, you know, they're, maybe not everybody, but most people are rooting for you. Like, they really are. So it's, you kind of have that in the forefront, and that just keeps you.
I think it's important to use people that have done what you want to do as motivation, but not let it get you down that you're not there yet.
Right. No, it's like you said, especially with you know, social media, it's so hard not to compare. Like, you want to do open bodybuilding, see a guy like Nick Walker, it's like, I mean, his Instagram handle is like literally the mutant, and like he looks like a savage.
100%.
And it's like, of course, like, yeah, I'm sure to an extent, like, you want that, but it's also like, you know, it's, you're on your path. Yeah, like, it's, you know, and again, that also goes back to the hard work and like the dripping faucet, where it's, you know, you're not going to get that overnight anyway, so it's, you need to enjoy the journey while you're on it.
Yeah. And I think that's like I talked about, like, a lot of times I'll just take that step back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people need to do that. Like, even like in that, I told you I started that Discord, like, everyone was sort of like comparing themselves to each other, and it's like, it was very like it wasn't like harsh, like they weren't coming at each other, but it's like, damn, like, what am I doing wrong that I don't look like you yet? And it's like, everyone's on their journey. Like I said, we already went over this. You might be on, you know, chapter 1, and they might be on chapter 10, but your chapter 10 might be better than their chapter 10. Like, you never know.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of something I've been meaning to touch on, is like, bodybuilding as a whole, it's comparing. Like, it really is tough. So I think the cool part is most people are training at their own gyms, and they're probably not training next to someone that they're going to step on stage with.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a really good thing. But then you get there that day, and you're literally, they do overalls. Like, you're comparing next to the person next to you. You know what I mean? Like, I think they even say, like, when you do the individual posing, you're not even being judged because the people aren't next to you yet. So I think it's, that world is very easy to get caught up in.
It's very toxic. It can be very toxic. And again, just like, I actually never really got caught up in comparing my physique with other people. I was very good at that because I always knew that I wanted to build a certain look, and I knew that it was going to take time. I think now, from like a business standpoint, that's where I have trouble comparing myself to others. And like I said, like, it's, you just got to realize, like for me, I just started, you know, my business. I'm relatively new to social media. Like you said, people were posting for years before they got any traction. And I think it's just like this podcast, like, you just need to stay consistent with it and just keep believing that, you know, each subscriber, each view is just like a small win, and eventually it piles up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, it really is, it's a tough, toxic kind of environment, but I think, like, you have a good head on your shoulders. Most people do. And I also saw the other end of it, where, like, a lot of people are supportive as well. Like, it's, you know, you step on stage, obviously you're competing, but you step off and it's, you know, people are friends. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a cool environment as well for someone that wants to get into it. If you could leave someone with, like, the best tip for, like, fat loss or to change their body, like, what would you say that is?
Just one word: consistency.
Consistency, yeah.
That's it. Nutrition, obviously, and consistency. If you have 5 great days, 1 shitty day for 10 years, you're going to beat the person that was consistently great for 3 years, but then fell off.
Right.
So it's just, it takes time, and like I said, even like not being 100%, but just being consistent in the gym and with your nutrition, and realizing that you might have slip-ups here and there, but if you do, like I said, just right back to the plan the next day. Just being consistent. Obviously, if you're like a competitive bodybuilder, don't miss meals.
Right.
But yeah, just pretty much consistency is the biggest thing.
So I actually have a guy that maps out all my running and stuff. His name's Jeff Cunningham, and he actually says consistently good over occasionally great. And I think that really hammers home exactly what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming on. If you can, you want to just say where they can find you.
Instagram, Knable Bodybuilding. TikTok, Knable Bodybuilding. Now the Discord server is also Knable Bodybuilding's Discord.
If you want to just get into that quick, do a quick little what the Discord's about and kind of how it came to be.
So I literally made it yesterday. Someone told me, because I'm working with Echo Vision, the pre-workout.
Yeah.
It's like a new startup brand. So one of the kids that was also like with them, we like went down to South Jersey and like did like a meetup and like worked out. And he was telling me like you should make a Discord. Like it's fun to like manage, and like you can have like a community where people can bounce ideas, and it's like more personalized.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of like trying to make it like I don't know if you remember the OG bodybuilding forums, like on bodybuilding.com,
yeah.
Just like where people could post wherever they want, like almost like free reign. I kind of got to get someone to like moderate it, just like make sure that
nothing gets crazy
happens. But yeah, just pretty much like asking questions, and obviously I can answer, but like other people can answer as well, and it's just like a community of like-minded people that bounce ideas off each other. Yeah,
that's awesome. But appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
For everybody listening, appreciate if you comment, subscribe, share to your friends, and see you next episode.